Welcome to the TravelPulse podcast. Here's your host, Mark Murphy.
Yeah, you got Mark Murphy again. You're stuck with me, folks. I am the official host of the TravelPulse podcast because I made myself the official host. See, this is what's cool about owning your own company. You look around the room and you're like, I picked me. So yeah, I picked me. And we're again talking travel this week. And surprise, I'm in Mexico. I was down here for a few days for something called the Cancun Travel Mart. Saw a lot of folks in the business. Had a great few days here, other than one key thing. You know, you gotta let people know when you screw up. And this is kind of ironic because I was flying out of Philadelphia on Sunday. I was in the air, and as we were about an hour and 25 minutes outside of Cancun, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to be able to make it to Cancun. I'll now eventually have to get up and go to the bathroom. But what ended up happening was, it started getting choppy. And I'm thinking, wow, it's pretty rough. So what did I do? I actually looked online because I was online at the time with that crappy Wi-Fi, and got online, and I see this freaking red dot that's really red in the middle and gets lighter colors, kind of yellow on the edges, and it's a big circle. And oh yeah, it's like almost on top of Cancun. Yeah, that was Tropical Storm Michael, which is now Hurricane Michael, threatening the Florida Panhandle. And Joey, travel expert here, Johnny on the spot, was so busy running back and forth, trips to Mexico, New York, my head spinning around like Linda Blair in The Exorcist, that I never took the time to check. And my flight was no problem. But sure enough, I literally flew into a tropical storm. Now, the good news is I was going anyway, even if my flight was, as long as my flight was not canceled, because there's an event that I wanted to be at. And the good news is it came by and did no damage here. It just made for a couple of lousy days with lots of rain and some winds. So with that said, I do know we're all fallible. And I'm like, man, maybe next time I should check the weather where I'm going. That's the problem with folks in the travel business like me. I'm in the media business, but I focus on travel. And because of that, we're always traveling. I mean, this is an industry where folks on the outside say, oh my gosh, you're so lucky. You get to go back to wherever, or you're traveling here, there, and everywhere. What they don't realize is the vast majority of those trips are spent at conferences and convention centers and hotel ballrooms with nonstop meetings where you drag your ass to bed, at 1, 2, 3 in the morning in some cases, and then you're back up at 7 a.m. doing it again. And then you basically pour yourself into an airplane seat 3, 4, 5 days later, and you just say, thank God I get a break for like a little bit. Case in point, somebody I know and I was talking to last night, her name's Amy Tirada. She's with Pleasant Holidays. She was in Hawaii, and it was, Hawaii, it's fantastic. She got back from Hawaii last Friday and flew to Cancun on Sunday. No offense, folks, that is a bitch. Hey, Jack Richards, where the hell are you, man? You didn't make the trip? Dude, I don't blame you. So we were talking about you last night. So hopefully, not hopefully, I'm sure your ears were ringing, but totally get that. So with that said, we have to find efficient ways to travel, and I gotta laugh. And again, I'm the travel guy, but I've got global entry. And it's one of the ways you get through customs and immigration. Well, immigration, you get through immigration, and then you just whisk through customs typically. Well, my journey a week ago, because I was down in Cancun, I flew back for a couple of days, and I kind of did the same thing with an extra day and a half on the ground up near Philly that Amy did. But I flew back, and when I checked in at the airport from Cancun, I have one of those bags that's got the battery in it. But of course, if you're going to check that bag, and I had 2 bags because we were filming, I had a lot of stuff, I wanted to check both of them. So I was checking the quote smart bag. And as I was checking it, the other person at the check-in was a little quiet there. She sees the bag. She goes to pick it up. She says, "Is this a smart bag?" And I said, "Well, actually, it's quite intelligent. It's bilingual. I've taught it Spanish, and it's fluent in both Spanish and English." Didn't even get a smile. I don't know. It was a pretty quiet day. I was like, "Wow, come on. That was funny, wasn't it?" No, she didn't think it was funny. And I knew she didn't think it was funny because even though when I showed her there was no battery in it and everything was good, that freaking bag was flagged and was sitting at the gate when I got to the gate. And they put a label across the top of it, which it's kind of like that stuff they put on the side of your car if you're parked illegally. It is a bitch to get off. I mean, you can get it off, but it leaves that sticky residue. So now I've actually tasked my lovely bride, who's a stay-at-home, I guess she's a stay-at-home empty nester, but she's got 2 dogs to take care of. I'm like, you know what? You got to get some kind of solvent or something. But it gets better. Since I have global entry, I got to Philly and I whisked through immigration. Well, that's usually great when you have carry-on, but it totally sucks, especially in Philly, because I don't know what it is with Philly, but it seems like it takes forever to get your bag. Lo and behold, as I go through the global entry and get my customs document, a gentleman stops me, and normally they just glance at it and say, go ahead. First thing he says, what? Why were you traveling? I'm like, I was traveling for business. How many days were you out of the country? Tell him how many days. Do you have any checked bags? Because all I had was a backpack. I said, oh yeah, got 2 checked bags. He said, okay, no problem. Have a great day. And, kind of puts a mark on the, an illegible mark on the customs form, which is basically me getting flagged to then go, once I got my bag, which, hey, awesome Philly, you shocked the crap out of me because the bags came out in like 10 minutes. It was amazing. But then, of course, Murphy's freaking law. What happens next? Oh, sure, you need to go over there, agriculture and, wildlife and farm animals. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I go over and there's 5 people standing around and I'm the only person there in this little sideshow at customs in Philly. And they basically ignore me. So I'm just kind of standing there. So just wait. I'm like, okay. And one of the ladies is talking about something that happened, in her personal life. And I'm thinking, yeah, hello, I'm here. So a guy looks up. He said, I'll take you. He's like, you need to run your bags through the X-ray. And I said, well, I just need to be sure. Is that gonna kill the chickens? So, excuse me? I said, is that gonna kill the chickens that I've got in my bag? Because this is like the agriculture or farm animal, inspection, right? Yeah, he didn't think that was funny either. So, needless to say, there were no live chickens. I didn't bring any chickens back. In fact, I rarely eat chicken because I'm surrounded by vegans in my house. And because of that, I just got on my way finally and got home. So it happens to the best of us, whether we're flying into a tropical storm, which is turning into a hurricane, whether we are whisking through the airport only to be flagged 8 ways to Sunday. Yeah, it was one of those days, folks. Now, what cracks me up though is when I see people and I think to myself, you're standing in line at the normal TSA security, right? And you'd think if you travel at least a couple of times a year for a vacation, you'd take a crowbar out, open your frickin' wallet, and apply for global entry, which includes pre-check. Costs $85. It'll take 15 minutes to fill it out. You go to the website, the government website, just Google it. You fill out the form, you schedule an in-person meeting / interview with the customs folks, which is at your local airport. And then basically they approve you or they don't. Now, if you're a criminal, they ain't going to approve you. On the other hand, if you're Joe Bag of Donuts and you're flying around and you want to whisk through protocol, the security protocol at the beginning, boom, you're done. And then when you come back from an international trip, you go straight to global entry. And other than getting flagged for live chickens like I did, or lack thereof, you are out the door so much faster. But guess what? I have told my freaking wife to do this. I mean, I don't know how many times. And she still hasn't done it. I'm going to launch a boycott. My wife will not be allowed. Honey, I hope you're listening this week. You will not be allowed to go anywhere internationally with me, even though you're starting to travel with me now, until you get your freaking global entry done. because you know what? She has to do her own thing at immigration because I sure as hell am not standing in that freaking line. And I send her on her way through customs as well because global entry is for one person. You can't do it for a family. So anyway, keep that in mind. Let's shift gears. Yeah, you know what? Think about this. Easy Pass. You know when you pull up and you see the people waiting in line at the bridge to pay the freaking toll? Yeah, those people don't have global entry either because they don't have freaking Easy Pass and they drive every damn day. So again, you non-Easy Pass, Sun Pass, whatever the hell it is in your state, folks, those folks are boneheads, total boneheads. All right, that's what's going on. That is what is going on in the world of my international travels. And with that said, I want to let you know that today's show is sponsored by the Mexico Tourism Board. And no, it's not. It's not sponsored by the Mexico Tourism Board. It's my podcast. It's not sponsored by anybody at this point. And even if it was, it wouldn't matter. So I threw that in there for you trolls who think that me saying a place might be okay to go to, and you're probably going to be just fine if you travel, and showing you videos of people on the ground here that are enjoying an experience, somehow that is making me rich. And guess what? Those folks could not be more wrong. And I'll just give you an example. If you watch a TV broadcast, you're going to see things called commercials. Expedia might be advertising on it, Royal Caribbean, You'll Play freaking yogurt, I don't know, pick something. Marie Callender's freaking pies. So that's advertising that the companies buy in order to do what? To go along with the messaging, the content, because if people are going to tune into the show and watch it, they feel like, oh, if they're going to watch it, then I want to put my product in front of them if they're the right audience, and therefore they may buy it next time they go to, I don't know, Ralph's in California. That's the reality of it. So it's not like the messages, make sure you book your next trip on Expedia. No, they're just freaking advertisers. And you have to separate the advertising from the media and the actual content and reporting. Otherwise, you have no credibility. So, the biggest thing I can say about credibility is if I tell you it's safe to go to Mexico and I never go to Mexico, I have no credibility. If I tell you it's safe to go to Mexico and I walk around the streets and I go places and I've traveled multiple times this year, and I bring my company here, and I'm bringing family members here for like the 9th year in a row for Christmas break, despite all of the things that you may be hearing in the market, actions speak louder than words, right? And so one of the things that's happening right now is because of some of this negative news and because there are issues on the ground in Mexico, there's no denying that there are things happening. But like I've said on a Fox News broadcast when they interviewed me about the murder rate in Mexico, et cetera, I looked at that and I said, well, the things you're referring to aren't happening to tourists, because that was the whole theme of it. They wanted to say, is it going to kill tourism? And the answer is no, because it's not like tourists are getting targeted, and people are, it's like gang wars that you have in Chicago and, Miami and Baltimore and Detroit. In fact, the irony is I just saw some statistics earlier this week where the per capita murder rate in Baltimore is double that of Cancun, and 0 tourists impacted. And it's almost double, it's 50% more in Detroit, for instance. And it's a lot more in Chicago, because we could talk about Chicago all day long. But again, let's not let the truth get in the way of the clickbait crap. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But just like the U.S. took measures like after 9/11, the folks here in Mexico aren't standing around. They're not going, oh, geez, just let it pass. They're putting in communication efforts. They're putting in, so you're properly informed. They're putting in police presence, military presence, et cetera. And interesting enough, just this week, they brought in a strong military presence throughout the Quintana Rose State. And that's a fantastic move because it just sends a message that the bad guys, this is out of bounds, guys. And even though you haven't been here affecting tourism, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, a couple of people have asked me, well, isn't that going to scare people away because the military presence, it's going to imply, there's a problem. And I immediately turned around and said, what are you talking about? Have you been to New York Penn Station lately? New York Penn Station, big train station in New York. There are National Guard troops with M16s standing all throughout the terminal. And again, you'd rather be safe than sorry. And you could say, whether it's Paris, Brussels, London, any place around the world, if they're smart, they have a visible presence like that because it deters the bad guys. Because these guys want to create havoc. I don't think they want to walk in and get destroyed day one, before they've done any other damage. And this really prevents things. So when you hear about the military presence down here, make sure you understand it's a reassuring presence, and it means that they're taking active steps down here. So again, thanks to my sponsor, right? Because of course it must have been a sponsor. No, it isn't. It's just what I'm seeing and what we're reporting on. So as we continue on and we look towards, what, is out there, you have to look at some of the headlines because they're always, highly entertaining. And, this emotional support crap is just getting beyond ridiculous. It's becoming a farce. There was a woman who said she was going to have on a Frontier flight an emotional support animal, okay? And I am all for emotional support animals, and I understand why people need it. But people are abusing this. Guess what her emotional support animal was, folks? You want to take a guess? It was a freaking squirrel. They told her she can't bring a squirrel on as an emotional support animal. She said that she had, filled it out and requested it, and it should be good. And she refused to get off the plane, so the plane was delayed 2 hours because they had to bring the law enforcement to get her off the damn plane. Lady, you know what? You're a pain in the ass. People like you should be banned from flying because you are a dope. You're annoying. I forget it. You know what? You know what I'm saying. It is really, really frustrating. And I feel bad for those travelers, but it's like every week there's some idiot on a plane or somewhere else that's screwing it up for everybody else. So that's nuts. Just FYI, wanted you to know that. Another travel tip. So don't bring your pet squirrel. Can't do that. And here's another thing you should think about. When you're booking a dream trip and you're going someplace and you're spending money, you need to do it with a reputable company. And you can validate these reputable companies by booking through a travel agent. So, interesting enough, this couple from New Zealand lost $1,100 and change dollars because they booked with a charter flight to go over the Grand Canyon, and then they basically showed up and there was an empty hangar and there was nobody there. There was no plane. There's nobody waiting for them. And the company that they supposedly had booked with, wasn't scheduled to fly at all, quote, that day. Turns out the co-founder, a guy named David Story, on this reporting said that the company has been non-operational for 18 months while they improve their aircraft. And if anyone books on the website, they refund them immediately. So we'll see. This is a 2-month-old story, and unfortunately, they have very little recourse. So again, folks, if you're going to book something, book with a travel agent. And if you decide to do it on your own, guess what? It's on you. There's no one to go back to get it corrected. That's why travel agents carry something called errors and omissions insurance. If they screw up, you're covered because they're covered. And the other thing is this. Worst case scenario, look online at reviews if you're going to do it yourself and make sure that you're going with somebody that has tons of reviews, that has been in operation, and that's been, delivering for clients for a period of time. That's just common sense, but unfortunately, it doesn't happen all the time. For all you potheads out there, there's another good story this week. FYI, you get on a cruise or you go somewhere internationally and you've got your weed with you, it's going to cost you if you get caught. And this woman basically, I guess, got off a ship. It looked like it was a Royal Caribbean ship. She got off the ship. She went to Bermuda, got off, and she had in her bag some drug paraphernalia. And it wasn't like she had, like just a vapor cartridge. She had 3 marijuana pipes, a grinder, a cartridge with the cannabis oil. And guess what it cost her, folks? Probably about 4 times what the cost of the cruise was. $4,000, which she had to pay before she got off the island. You might not realize it, but yeah, we've got recreational pot in California, Oregon. I'm trying to remember. Obviously, Colorado, and a few others. I think there's 7 states. It doesn't matter. If you go overseas, it's their rules, not yours. So make sure you look through your bag, especially if you got high school or college kids and they use that bag. Be doubly sure you don't want to be those folks. All these things, by the way, you can read a lot of these stories on TravelPulse.com, of course. So they're there for you. And then this is something from the Mirror over in the UK. And I've talked about this on an earlier podcast, but the flight attendants are basically telling you to keep your damn shoes on the plane because it's ridiculous and it's filthy. I saw a woman with her probably 2-year-old walking up and down the aisle and the kid didn't have his shoes on. These people are basically saying there are accidents that happen on the plane. You know what those accidents are. They include bodily fluids and more. And sure, they come on and clean the plane and do some stuff. And of course, they, quote, come on and clean the toilets. But really, folks, the plane turns around in 15, 20 minutes on average, depending on the airline. How deep a cleanse are you getting in there? Are they coming in and shampooing the carpets? Hell no. I mean, I should reach out to one of the airlines and say, how often do you do that? Because that stuff, man, when does that get touched? And so if you're walking around with your shoes off, oh man, that is so gross. And I told you a story about the guy, and I took a picture of his, I think I put it on Instagram, picture of the guy walking barefoot. Adults, I mean, if you're a parent, don't let your kid walk around barefoot. There's urine and all sorts of crap down there. It's just the nature of it. You got 100, 200, 300 people every 3 hours coming on, going off, coming on, going off, coming on, going off. There's going to be stuff going on. And that's just one day, and times 30 days, times 180 days. Do the math. You don't want to be that person. So, just absolutely disgusting. I didn't need flight attendants to tell me that, but if you want to see it, it's on the Mirror. 10 things the flight attendants will tell you about not taking your shoes off on a plane. You can find a lot of that stuff out there. Now, we'll conclude with this. Again, my travel tip of the week is basically look at the Caribbean, look at a map, go to the various websites like Puerto Rico Tourism, etc., and check out what's really going on across the Caribbean. Sort out what's the truth versus the fiction versus the whole Caribbean versus a couple of islands, etc. And we're closing in on the end of hurricane season, so a few more weeks and we'll be in the clear completely. So hopefully that will continue. But again, a reminder, when they said the Caribbean got hit, the Caribbean is a vast geographic area with dozens of countries and islands, etc. You have to understand that the vast majority, more than 80% of the Caribbean was untouched last year, despite all that news. And people, unfortunately, stayed away from the whole region in some cases. So be informed. Travel agents will know where to sell you in terms of what your desires are, what you're looking for, what your price point is. But I always ask folks who travel, forget voluntourism where you go and give a few hours off a cruise or something. That's fine. But if you really want to make an impact, book a trip where your dollars are going to dramatically impact the destination and the people there, because in many cases, these islands, their only business primarily is travel and tourism. And if you stop going, then they take a hit. So they get the hit from the hurricane, they rebuild, but you don't come back quick enough and they take a second hit economically. And that's a shame, but you should really take a look and kind of support with your travel dollars those regions and areas where you can make a difference. And the Caribbean's a big one coming this winter. Now, a couple of funny things to leave you with on a cruise ship. Here are two things that were overheard on a cruise ship by travelers. One was, do crew members sleep on board? Really? No, we helicopter them in. They do halo, high altitude, low opening jumps, like the Navy freaking SEALs. That's how they get on there every day. I wish I was around for that. And again, I don't know if this is urban legend, but I was reading about it. I thought it was funny. And then the other thing was asking the photo desk on the cruise ship, how do I know which photos are mine? Because you're in them. You're in the photo. If you're a blind person, it might be a challenge. But then if you're a blind person, you can't really see the photo anyway. So what's the difference? Oh, God, there I go again. You know what? I'm going to get in trouble for that one. But anyway, I'll leave on a low note. And I'll see you next week. And I'll probably be a day late again. But hopefully not. Maybe I'll be a day early next week and surprise the hell out of everyone here. Thanks for watching, listening, tuning in, working out, driving in your car. Yeah, you didn't watch. You only listened. But anyway, thanks for listening this week, and we'll be back to you next week.